to Business Simplicity Podcast, where we learn about strategies and tactics to succeed through simplicity, with your host, Chris Parker.
Hello, and welcome back to the Business Simplicity Podcast. This is Chris Parker, and this is the beginning of season 4, episode 202. Pretty exciting. You haven't heard from me since, early Q1 at least, was the last post on this. And that's for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is I've been super busy in the free time finishing the book, Lead From Love with Rumi. Is out as of the 30th of September, which is International Rumi Day. And I want to use this episode to introduce season 4, the book, tell a little bit about what happened in the book creation process, and set you up for what the future of the Business Simplicity Podcast will look and feel like. But before I do that, I'm just going to open up the intent of Lead From Love with Rumi, which is 100 insights for leaders to harness the power of compassion, connectivity, connection, and creativity. So it's 100 insights for leaders to harness the power of compassion, connection, and creativity. I'm just going to go ahead and open because it's 100 essays, and each of these 100 essays is on 2 book pages. I think the whole book is like 265 pages with the introduction and the preface and foreword and the appendix and whatnot. But I want to just go ahead and kick off this episode. I just flipped to a random page, and the Rumi quote is, "As you start to walk on the way appears." And my essay around this is, in the ever evolving narrative of business, the process of transformation presents itself as a journey rather than a predefined destination. It's a path laden with uncertainty where the contours of the future are not etched in stone, but are revealed with each step we dare to take. This realization, while daunting, holds within it a profound liberation. The understanding that the act of moving forward, of embracing change, inherently guides us towards the emergence of new pathways, possibilities, and horizons. Leading from love, we approach this journey of transformation with a sense of openness and curiosity, recognizing that the true essence of growth lies not in meticulously charting every course, but in being receptive to the unexpected twists and turns that define our path. It's a leadership ethos that values the journey as much as the outcome, understanding that each step, each decision, and each leap of faith is a vital piece of the story of our organizational narrative. This perspective encourages a culture of adaptability and resilience, where the focus shifts from attempting to control every variable to the cultivating an environment that thrives on flexibility, innovation, and collaborative problem solving. It's a recognition that the path to transformation is paved with lessons learned, challenges overcome, and the collective creativity and commitment of our teams. Embracing the unfolding path of transformation aligns with the principles of leading from love, fostering an atmosphere where individuals feel empowered to share their insights, to experiment, and to contribute to the shaping of the journey. It's a paradigm that champions the human basis of business, understanding that the heart of every strategy, every pivot, and every innovation are people, driven by passion, guided by insight, and united by a shared vision of what could be. The journey of business transformation mirrors the profound wisdom that as we start to walk on the way appears. It's a call to embrace the inherent uncertainty of change with courage, to lead with love and authenticity, and to trust the collective ability of our teams to navigate the uncharted waters of innovation and growth. It's a reminder that the path to transformation is not a solitary trek, but a shared voyage of discovery, where the true measure of success lies not in the precision of our plans, but in the richness of our journey and the depth of our connections along the way. So that is just one of the 100 essays, inspirational essays, I hope, for you. I wrote this over the last 2.5 years in a journey that I'll describe now. I did this in a solitary journey up until really the last chapter. The process provided me a place of solace, of perspective, of peace while going through a number of challenges personally and professionally. Um, and I very much wrote it for myself, and maybe you find it inspirational as well. My hope is that I turn to that book occasionally when in need of inspiration. I just flip to the right page, let synchronicity be the guide, and give me what I need. So, um, Lead From Love with Rumi was released on the 30th of September. It's on Amazon and other platforms. So, in hardcover, softcover, and also ebook. On the 29th of September, we did a pre release event at the Embassy of the Free Mind in Amsterdam. And it was absolutely lovely. Mr. Joseph Rittman, the director, surprised me. I hadn't met him before, but they actually have an authentic Rumi manuscript in Farsi in their private collection. And he opened that up to me, and my son Nate and I were able to go in there and actually handle that book. Of course, it's in Farsi, so was unintelligible to me, but it was still an impressive and beautiful thing. And Anil Nashir, a dear friend and ex-colleague, him and I wrestled with leading from love. And so the first half was telling a bit of the story, which I'll share again now lightly. And then the second half of that conversation was having a discussion with Anil, which was really beautiful. Thank you, Anil. So the book is not going into the area of telling and defining what these things like what is love, what is leadership. I'll try to do that a little bit right now, but that wasn't the point. I think love and leadership are so much in the eye of the beholder. But for me, it's very lightly. In this case, love is not a relational love. It's not romantic love. It's universal love. It's a love that exists in everything and is in between everything, very much as Rumi describes it. Love is when you release the ego, release the anxiety, release the mind, overcome the pressures of the body, the physical, and what's left is that source, that spirit, that essence, that universal truth, that love. This is the love that I'm talking about. Leadership, I'm not talking about managerial leadership per se. Anyone can be a leader in any organization. Leadership is if we just very simply, it's providing that sense of direction and that, contributing that sense of confidence or that inspiration and that support. So what is leadership from love? It's from that deep essence, that deep pure self, providing yourself and others a direction and a vision, and keeping yourself going with intent and inspiration. So, and with Rumi, Rumi, of course, isn't known by everyone. He's a 13th century mystic and poet. He was born in the early 1200s, 1207, I believe, in what's now Afghanistan. So he was Persian. His family were very academic, religious leaders, and they moved to what's Konya, Turkey, which was his final resting place, and it still is. And there is a beautiful memorial location there that I still would love to go visit that. And Rumi happens to be arguably, but stated by the BBC at least as the most famous and well-read poet in the Western world. Now, how did that happen? Because the people in the Western world are not reading Farsi or Arabic or Turkish or any of the languages that Rumi wrote in originally. Well, there's been a couple of jumps in the 1800s, I believe. Might be wrong. It might have been early 1900s, but let's say the 1800s. There was a team of people, academics, Nicholson, and then later Arbery, who was a student of Nicholson, who did a series of very literal translations of the very lengthy Rumi texts. The Nicholson translation of the Masnavi, the most famous set of work of Rumi, I believe, takes 8 large encyclopedic books. And I believe this still is incomplete. From my research, there is, of course, wild debate on the accuracy, because Rumi existed in a time and a place which we literally cannot imagine. And certainly for someone from the West, translating it into English, well, so much will be lost. From there, it jumped, or perhaps more contemporary people went straight to the original, but made further interpretations. And the person that I think is most credited for bringing Rumi to life in our day and age in the West is Coleman Barks. And Coleman Barks is a poet, an educator, professor, I believe, in Georgia, who has published many, many translations of Rumi. And that's where I think he brought this to most of us, because if you've heard of Rumi at all, if you've seen any of these quotes, it's most likely, very likely, a Coleman Barks translation or somehow related to him. But other people like Deepak Chopra have also published translations. Various people, Madonna, Coldplay, are influenced by him. So there's a pretty wide impact in contemporary Western culture by this 13th century Sufi, is Muslim mystic and poet, which is absolutely fascinating. Now, I had already heard of Rumi. I had a couple of Rumi books in my personal library, but it was Vahid Dami who wrote the foreword for the book. And Vahid, while I work with LeasePlan, was the COO and the CEO. And LeasePlan is a large multinational financial institution in vehicle leasing on multiple continents. And I have the absolute pleasure of meeting up with Vahid, hopefully once a year, over in London. And I expressed to him that I was working on a book about leading from love, or connecting love and leadership. And he's the one who nudged me and said, well, in him being Persian, was very familiar with this. He nudged me, if you're interested in love, then you must spend some time with Rumi. And so thank you, Vahid, for that nudge. And what I did is I did that. I went into Rumi. I ordered some more books, started researching, started maybe a bit too academically, because I went maybe too deep. And what I finally did is said, okay, I don't care about the potential errors of the translations and interpretations. The Western versions of the Rumi texts resonated with me, and some of the lines of these poems triggered me, inspired me, and so I started writing. And I was writing small pieces. I wasn't sure what the book was even going to be, but I was like, okay, if here is a statement that resonates with me, what does that mean, and how could I apply that to my life and leadership? Of course, Rumi wasn't writing about 2024 AI business models, SaaS, platform economy, all the things that I'm wrestling with every day. But it certainly inspired me to reflect on these in a different way. So it's that's how it happened. I'll get into the actual process a little bit later, but why a book? And I had a lot of fun at the pre-release event, where I demonstrated some of the evidence of the first two things on my to-do list. I don't call it a bucket list, because I think after you finish that list, you're supposed to kick the bucket, and I'm not anywhere near bucket kicking time. So the first was sing a song, the second was make a movie, and now the third is write a book. Sing a song. I took singing lessons, and for our wedding reception to Melanie, I sang a Dutch ballad, and my Dutch is still not perfect for those of you that know me. Um, it's coming, but I sang a Dutch ballad, Ik hou van jou, from the artist Gordon. Um, and literally it gets worse every time I listen to it. Let's call it very authentic. And I'm very happy that Melanie and I had already signed the papers before I did that. Otherwise, that whole event might have turned out differently. But sing a song in front of your friends and family and loved ones on such an important day. Yeah, okay, that qualifies. The second was make a movie. And I had been researching that for quite some time. I had gone to some like producer master classes and the 48-hour film project, which I brought to the Netherlands with Richard Gut. Ran that for a number of years. And the person who won the first 48 hour film project, it's a weekend long contest in Amsterdam, was Christian Knigge. We became friends. And in 2011, when I was leaving LeasePlan after 10 years, Christian showed up he was one of the first people who said, "Hey, let's have lunch." And he basically said, "Yeah, I have this script. We're going to shoot this very soon in Portugal. You need to come join." And I just didn't have any excuses anymore, because it's like I had that time in my hands. So we did it, and The Right Juice was produced. Not quite on that schedule. We need to do some rework, but probably a year later, and I want to say 2012, The Right Juice was released. Won some awards. Played in cinema in Portugal. My measure of success was having the movie tickets. Absolute delight, and The Right Juice is still one of my favorite movies. And thank you, Christian, for inviting me into that journey. We have produced 2 films after that, using a different what I call agile filmmaking process, which were also excellent adventures. And who knows, maybe when there's more free time, when is there free time? Maybe he'll show up again at my lunch table, and we'll go off on another crazy adventure. I hope so. But that left write a book. And some of you have called me out because you already have a book shaped object on your bookshelf that has the name Chris Parker on it. And it's called the CIO Survival Guide for the Experience Economy. Indeed, I think around the same time, 2012, Rob Beileveld and the ICT Media team were kind enough to agree to have me write a series of articles for the whole year. So I committed to a whole year, 12 articles about the experience economy. So customer relationship management, customer experience design, going from customer service. I went through the whole gamut and did a structured series of articles. And once that was done, I just wrapped those together and published those, self-published those. And I think you might even still be able to get on Amazon. I don't know. But it's not, for me, it doesn't qualify as a book. It's on paper, but it's 12 articles. And in order to make it thick enough, I printed on one side the English versions, and the other side I put the Dutch version. So it's and I want to say Mariah Goos was she's an author of and writing coach here in the Netherlands, and she guided me on that journey, which was fascinating. Then I started multiple times writing books around the simple business design canvas, which I've talked about on the podcast quite a few times. And that's the direction I was going with the book. And very fortunately, I was introduced to Jeroen de Vlaanderen, who is a strategy expert, guru, author, consultant from Belgium. And his sage advice was, no one is waiting for a how-to business book, and everyone's waiting for a why inspirational book. And that kind of crushed me, because I thought I was making the new canvas of to save the world, but it just wasn't working. I had also tried with the Cuba team, with Jessica and Vim and Simon, to try to spin that into the sustainability canvas, the sustainable business design model, which is a brilliant tool. You can check that at quba.com, quhuba.com. But the book didn't spark, didn't fly. So taking the advice of Jeroen, mix it with the tip from Vahid, and then just starting to write. I also realized that there was no real form to what I was writing. I was looking for like, okay, what's the plot? How am I going to string all this together? And finally, I got to the point that I had enough of these little inspirations and thoughts. Like I took these Rumi quotes and then was sprinkling the kind of a pixie dust on it. And the pixie dust that I was sprinkling on it were a lot of these concepts and methods that are so important to me that they'll help me in my success, like organizational design methods like holacracy, and sociocracy, agile, DevOps, different types of team learning, that I have picked up from the Ajugo team. Obviously, psychological safety. Thank you, Dr. Edmondson from Harvard, for writing such a wonderful advanced praise that's on the book cover, as well as Brian Robertson from Holacracy, and Chip Conley from the Modern Elder Academy. Author Stan Phelps has written now 19 books on from the Goldfish series. I had kicked around a little bit. Maybe I could write something with him, but there wasn't something that was really gelling. And here we are with Lead from Love, with Rumi. Also very, very influential is the meditative practices that Vineke van Aken from Meta Mind here in Amsterdam. She was my early meditation coach. I went on a course with her here in Amsterdam, and that got me past the calm apps and things like that, and into actual physical meditation, if you will. And Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, that whole concept of the emotional guidance system, and being very intentional, and absolutely Dr. Joe Dispenza, who takes meditation and breath work to a whole next level for me, and is really into healing and being very intentional. So there's so many other inspirations that I was realized I was mixing all these things up. So I was having Rumi quotes that were then sparking management, real life leadership management challenges in my mind. And I was then mixing it up with, kind of like an alchemist, mixing up many of these concepts and methods. And then I had this pile of half written, of different lengths, essays. And when I got to not quite 50, but I realized that okay, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but this feels good enough. So I kept going, writing, and had a very, very then large pile of very messy stuff. And that's when when I said, okay, well, actually the book is just going to be this. This is the book. And I thought, I would just love it if I had a book that I could flip to any page and remind myself of what I'm thinking with these things. And that's where it came from. So the editing process was mostly removing things, because I also had to come down to do 6x9 inch trade book pages. So there's not a lot of words on that. So I had to trim a lot, and the things I trimmed were ego nonsense directive statements, like in order to make your employees happy you must, ripped all that stuff out, removed most of the references directly to sources and methods. So I think it maybe talks about psychological safety a few times, agile once or twice. So unless it really helped, I took out do this thing, because no one needs this thing. It's, the people will find their thing. And then also any examples, I had in there, like, I've worked for Nordstrom, worked for Apple on campus in Utah State. I'm a big fan of Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines, of course, they're in the States. For the Americans, know it, but the stock ticker for Southwest Airlines is LUV, love. It's you can't talk about leadership and love without Southwest Airlines, in my opinion. Removed it all, because either you don't know who Southwest Airlines are, or you hate them because they there's some things that they do that some people don't like. It's a low cost airline. No, some people don't love that. So I removed a lot. And I like that, because that's kind of in the spirit of what my definition of love in this case is, meaning remove the ego, remove the physical, and love is that truth, that universal, glory, that universal essence that's left is this love that I'm connecting to, that I have found in particularly in week-long retreats with Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you go to one of those retreats and go all in, sure, it's in Cancun, it's on a beautiful beach, and on that week there's over 40 hours of meditation, you will find a deeper sense of self in that. And what I found in that is love, deep love of myself and others, and incredible peace. So yeah, but looking at my notes, I think about, writing, editing, removing. We talked about Rumi books. That the one thing that I am not satisfied with the book is the fact that I've not been able to definitively yet, maybe there'll be a second edition, definitively yet attribute the translations of the Rumi quotes. And this is one of the ways that I did use AI in this and failed. I've also used AI in the editing, and that also didn't help, because it sort of AI-ified too much of it. And while I was able to use it to harmonize some of it, it actually was much more work than it was worth, because I had to go back and humanize it, like yeah, it was a bit of a mess. But with one of the data scientists that I work with, we ran a little exercise. But first, Martin Klein, a fellow CIO, CTO, told me about GPT for All. I was like, well, what's that then? GPT for All is an open source chat GPT type solution that you can install on your own computer, your own laptop. And then you can implement an open source LLM. And I was using Llama from Meta. And then you can create a directory with properly formatted, so typically text files or PDF files, as a document source. And then you can limit the GPT for All to only target and that document source, so it ingests that. My laptop was just dying under that process, so there was a way that you could actually API to the Atlas system of Nomic that makes the GPT for All, and I think for like $4, I did something that would have taken weeks in about, I don't know, an hour. It just crunched all that data, and then that data set was then in the laptop, and it failed. Then Ehab tried it. He used Open GPT, he created it right on there, and that also failed. We don't know why yet, because there's 90 books, including the original Farsi versions of the Rumi texts, as well as the Nicholson, the Arbery, the Chopras. There's 90 sources in there, and the question we kept asking is, what is the closest original statement of these quotes? And it just wasn't. It was coming back with answers, but we just couldn't find it back in the books. So my belief is the PDFs are OCR'd, so they're optical character recognition. So if you ever had a PDF and you try to copy the PDF and it comes out in all these weird different chunks and it's not one beautiful block of text. I think that's the problem because the GPT is expecting a block of text that it can understand, and I think it's just too messy. So the only regret I have with what's been published is that, in fact. So maybe one day we'll solve that and we'll come back and do it. But thank you, for that. Now the publishing and formatting. I have self-published 4 books for other people. I think there is the CIO Survival Guide, which I already mentioned. There is Cleaning Up After Science, Brian Birkenstein's adventure in the Arctic or Antarctic research lab. In order for him to get there, he went as a janitor, which is just an amazing story of adventure. My late father-in-law, Russ Hubbard, wrote, it's on the ground over there. Something about Artemis. I can't read it from here, and it's kind of a historical fiction. And my mother, Kathy Hubbard, did a project. It was self-published, but it was a graphic novel, and that was interesting. So, but anyways, I've been through the self-publishing process for others a number of times, and that came natural to me. So, so formatting the contents of a book is an art to make it look and feel like a book. If you've ever ordered something on Amazon and it comes out and there's no real title page, and clearly somebody just took a Word document and pushed it out there and they're charging, 5 or 6 euros for something, it's just junk. I didn't want that. I wanted something else. So spent a lot of time on that. The cover, I did in a creative way. I use crowdspring.com, and that I just love doing this. It's even if I didn't have a project, I would love to do it because you can choose what you want, whether company logo or brochure or book cover. And then there's a fee. I think it was like $300 is the fee. And you don't even have to guarantee to pay it. So if you don't get any good ideas, you can just get your money back as well. In my case, I want to reward the artists because $300 is not a lot. And so I do this guaranteed payment, and then I usually up the amount a little bit. And then you have a week to receive ideas and concepts. So drafts from artists. And in my case, I think there was probably 50 artists that contributed. Some of them were clearly, I think graphic design classes, first time students use this to pitch ideas because some of them are not great, hilariously so sometimes. But there are a few that really emerged to the top, and the actual book cover, which I call the sunset book cover, came from that. And this is it was lovely. If you're following me on LinkedIn, I posted a couple of days ago the 3 different options, and I went out to some of my close friends and collaborators and got their opinion. And this cover, I think, is definitely the right thing. You can, if you're seeing on this video or look it up on Amazon, there is a Arabic looking word in the middle of the cover, and that is a word in Arabic, and it's also a word in Farsi. And so the intention is the Farsi version of the word. And the reason that I put the Farsi there is really a nod to Rumi himself, and a nod, an expression of thanks, and an expression of love to Rumi for that. And that word is, if I'm going to try to pronounce it, I'll pronounce it poorly, is eshk. The Arabic is eshk with a Q, as far as I understand. And I've been talking to some of my Egyptian Arabic friends around this as well. And eshk in Farsi, confirmed by Vahid, thank you, is love, but specifically a deep, passionate, and intense form of love, often with connotations of the spiritual or divine love. Um, in Arabic, and talking, I think, to Jeroen Hendricks on this. Thank you, Jeroen. He explained to me that there is 11 words or phrases in Arabic that express the feeling of love specifically. Um, and in this case, ishq has a similar depth of meaning, often evoking the notion of an overwhelming, all encompassing love that transcends mere affection and enters the realm of spiritual and mystical devotion. So I believe ishq, this definition of love, is the perfect definition, if we can get close to one, for what I mean with lead from love with Rumi. And so that's what's going on with the Farsi, the Persian word, right in the front center of the book cover. So that's what that's all about. Now another thing that happened is of course Rumi was living in the 1200s. There was not photography then, so we don't actually know what he looks like. Well, there's statues, there's paintings, there's pictures, and it was a wonderful suggestion from Vahid. Thank you, Vahid, to talk to Yentin Ten Hovel, from also another Leaseplan colleague. There's a lot of links to Leaseplan with this. Leaseplan, when I was there, was an amazing family of people working in this multinational. And for 10 years, I worked there, and it was absolutely brilliant, brilliant experience. So much trust and opportunity and friendships that came from it. I'm still speaking weekly on different things with people that have direct connections straight back to at least plan times. Actually, daily, because of course Melanie, my wife, I met at Leaseplan. So thank you, Leaseplan. And Yentine, again, you'll have to get the book to see it, but I'll hold it up very quickly, was kind enough to make this portrait painting from some photographs that I provided her, and of Rumi. So she was, thank you, Yentine, for bringing Rumi to life, really to life, in the book. I think that was so special. It was, yeah, really just heartwarming. There was a time when she was finishing a course on trauma coaching and therapy, and she finished her own book, which is a bit of kind of a graphic novel. And I was able to go to experience that with her down in Zeeland in the Netherlands. And her partner Leo sat me there for about an hour because they wanted to get more specifics on me and my face. And it was just such a lovely journey. And I have this beautifully framed version of this painting of Rumi and I, thanks to Yentine. Let me look to, going through the, now I'm just going to get into some of the thank yous, some of the people that read the book in advance and gave some wonderful advanced praise, like Amy Edmondson, Dr. Edmondson from Harvard, who ran I think it was called the Socrates Project with Google, and came up with the observation of psychological safety. Her most recent book, the Right Kind of Wrong, the Science of Failing Well, super good. Chip Conley, who I've been able to meet once, he ran the Joie de Vivre hotel chain, then was I think head of hospitality for Airbnb. And through that learning, he came out with the modern elder concept and has created the Modern Elder Academy. And I've taken one of his programs. And they have a campus in Baja California, and I think Santa Fe. Hoping they open up something in here in Europe, maybe in Ibiza or something. Please, Chip, if you're listening to this. Brian Robertson from Holacracy. What I loved about that is Brian has a painting, an artwork inspired by a Rumi quote, commissioned by a friend of his, that's actually sitting there in his office. And so And also when I reached out to Chip, he was talking to one of his collaborators about the relationship between Rumi and Shams of Tabrizi. And early in the book, I include a quote from Shams, who was a wandering dervish mystic that completely disrupted Rumi's life. Who was before that a an academic, religious academic, and then with the introduction of Shams, um, he found a much, I guess, deeper connection to universal love, and um, unfortunately, some of the followers and the devotees of Rumi, as far as as far as I read, were not appreciative of the distraction of Shams, and Shams disappeared. Whether he died, was killed, left, nobody knows, but he left, and and that was the trigger that so much of what we have read as far as deep universal appreciation, affection, and love is expressed by Rumi. But Chip and his colleague were talking about that relationship just before I reached out about this. Jeroen de Vlaanderen, of course, the author of The Art of Performance and the strategy expert from Belgium, who nudged me down the path of a Y book. Karen de Boek from Ajugo, and Karen's been an agile lean coach, working near me and with me in a number of projects over the last couple of years with Destiny and Tactful. And just today, Karen and I ran an hour and a half long Lead From Love interactive workshop with the Enablers team. It was like 12, and these are world-class leadership development coaches, really leaning into what is love and playing with it. And thank you, Karen. It's always a delight creating those experiences with you. Simon Broad, Wim Luberson, and Jessica from Cuba, Jessica Van Beek from Cuba, who are my sustainability collaborators. Daniela Hofbauer, who I met at the Dr. Joe Dispenza Cancun. She's a HR manager, career coach from Germany. Thank you for that reading and reflecting. Stan Phelps. Stan was great because he's written 19 books and self-published most of them, and gave some really excellent tips. Particularly at the early version was just 100 essays, and he strongly suggested, I think there's two things that I attribute to him. The fact that I restructured them into 4 distinct chapters, and also using a different font for the Rumi quotes. So thank you, Stan, for that. Joytish Patel, my energy coach. Thank you for introducing me. I've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza before, working with Joytish, but really brought that to life and sent me down that path. Charlotte Mader from Enablers, mindfulness instructor, executive coach, specialized in neurodiversity. Wrote an article with her about that. She turned into an accidental accountability partner in a way, maybe not accidental, but the right person at the right time. I was having a number of catch-ups with her when I was just finishing the book, and the fact that I was kind of reporting to her that, hey, I'm going to do this by the next time, it helped me keep myself accountable. So thank you, Charlotte, for that. Dorota Klopp Sawinska, career coach, also ex-lease plan. I think what was instrumental in helping me figure out in my life what I don't want to do, and that really created a space for this. Didier Marlier, of course, one of the original partners of the Enablers Network. If you read the book, I know his advanced praise is very, very personal. It's thank you for that, Deeds. Garfield Kirchhoff, a therapist and coach, also ex-lease plan. When I was going through this, there's so many connections back to lease plan. It was a beautiful moment. And Gerfel was a enterprise architect, and he moved on to becoming a therapist and a coach. And I spent some time with him in a life coaching type of context. So it was super cool. I'm starting to wrap up here, and I'm going to read one more of these essays before I go. But what's next? There's a couple things that are next. In later in October, we're going to do another book event, but this one is in Nijmegen, and we're going to do it the Orientalis Museum Park, and it's an open air park that they're having a Rumi exhibit that Yentine turned me on, and I'll be presenting that with Karen. So I'll give the a bit of this story, but with some of the audio visual, and then have a discussion, a podcast type discussion with Karen, together with that audience. And so there'll probably be 20 people, 30 people there. Really looking forward to that. The way that I'm looking to market this is really in the form of the podcast. So I'm going to be having people on talking about leading from love, asking what their favorite Rumi quote is, and just playing around with that's going to be the next season of this whole podcast. So look forward to that. I think the workshop that we piloted today, this could be a in person or online. I would say 3-hour workshop with a group up to 15 to really dive into, for the individual and the collective there, what leadership and love can be. Of course, if you're looking for an inspirational keynote, I'd love to get on stage and talk about this stuff. Let me know. The I guess the magical thing would be, what better gift could there be than to give the gift of love, for example, as a corporate gift. And again, you're into Flander. Thank you for this idea. I'm leaning into it. Really curious if it works. But if someone, in an organization wants to make this into their holiday gift, what I would love to do is have that executive write a custom forward, maybe even replace all of the advanced praise with some comments and feedback and some praise and thanks from your management team, your executive team, for your staff or your customers. There's a short section before the actual essays around introducing leading from love. It's like 10 pages. We could sparkle that up with a little bit of anecdotes from your company if you want. My own logos on the back, we could change the logo on the book for you. We could also record a podcast conversation. Maybe it's a very personal one for your staff, and then we could just keep that private and put that as a QR code here in the book. There's a lot of ways we could play this. So if anyone knows an organization, or for your organization, you want to give the gift of love, either for your customers or your employees or your leadership team, let us know. And I'm doing that project with Bridget Johnston, another Lease Plan colleague, who's been kind enough to offer to help coordinate that. So that would be great. So what's next? My dream after this is to write more of these, but we'll see if that actually happens, because life happens, of course. But Lead from Love with the Stoics, with Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. I think that would be awesome. I could just play with that. Theodore Parker is a minister from early Boston. I'm a descendant of him, as far as I understand, according to the lineage books. And there is even a physical resemblance, and I have a number of books of and about him. There's one book called The American Heretic that tells his story. And what I understand is the Oval Office of Obama. Each president apparently creates their own rug for the Oval Office, and one of the quotes on that was attributed to him. I think it would just be fun to say, like Leading from Love with Theodore. And the dream of dreams would be, if anyone knows her, let me know, because I would love her to write the forward. But Lead from Love with Taylor would be absolutely amazing. So let's see if she reads this and gets in touch. I would love that. So that's what's next. The rest of the podcast is going to be conversations, with fascinating, successful, interesting people talking about leading from love and playing around with Rumi a little bit, mostly about them and diving into. Well, here's a good one. Let me just write this. So I think this is maybe a perfect conclusion to this podcast episode, episode 202, the beginning of season 4. So the Rumi quote: "When we practice loving kindness and compassion, we are the first ones to profit." I love that. Leading from love means cultivating a workplace where fairness and empathy are not just encouraged, but are foundational to every interaction and decision. When leaders embody these virtues, they not only foster a supportive environment, but also witness a transformation within themselves. This shift is not just in how they relate to others, but in how they perceive and engage with the world around them. By prioritizing compassion, leaders ignite a powerful force within themselves and their teams. This force, a deep sense of connection and understanding, paves the way for genuine interactions and a collaborative spirit. It's in this space that the magic of innovation and creativity flourishes. Teams feel more secure to express their ideas, take risks, and commit wholeheartedly to the organization's mission because they know they are valued and understood. Moreover, this practice of compassionate leadership goes beyond the immediate benefits of improved team dynamics. It touches the very core of the leader's personal growth. As leaders nurture their teams with kindness and fairness, their own inner life becomes enriched. They develop a keener intuition for making decisions that align with both their values and the needs of their organization. This harmonious alignment enhances their ability to foresee and act upon opportunities that might otherwise have been overlooked. This leadership style also creates a ripple effect throughout the organization. A culture of kindness and respect, once established, becomes self-perpetuating. New leaders emerge from within these compassionate environments, equipped with the emotional maturity to continue this legacy. Thus, a cycle of positive growth sustains itself, underpinned by the principles of love and respect. Ultimately, the practice of loving kindness and compassion in leadership is an ongoing journey. It requires patience, commitment, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Leaders must continually engage with their teams and with themselves, learning and adapting as they go. This path is not without its challenges, but the personal and professional rewards we reap from this approach are profound. Embracing the transformative power of compassion and leadership not only fosters a healthier, more vibrant workplace, but also cultivates a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose in leaders. As they grow in their ability to lead with love, they find that their own lives are enriched, embodying the truth that in giving, we receive. So, my friends, this is Lead From Love with Rumi. Thank you so much. You can find it on Amazon. Look forward to more episodes in the Business Simplicity podcast on this theme. And if you have any ideas of an organization that would love to give love as the gift this holiday, then let us know. You can find that at ebullient.com/leadfromlove, where there's more information about the book and that corporate gift program, as well as the podcast. So thank you so much. When I was at the book event at the embassy last weekend, just the ability to sign off on these books with "Love, Chris" was an amazing gift in itself. So with this one, I'm going to sign off with wholeheartedly. I just love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Visit ebullient.com to download the Simple Business Design Framework. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player.